Bryan Cook, safety, goes to Kansas City. This kid out of Cincinnati, I call him, well, he's one of the Rye guys, right? Ryan Wilson, there are certain guys that he says, yep, this is a guy I like a little more than most. This was a guy you were pretty high on.
Howard transfer where he played cornerback, so he has that ability. Came to Cincinnati and played in the secondary. He can play deep, he can play in the slot, he can play in the box, and he comes downhill with an attitude. He's a wrap-up tackler. He's incredibly instinctive. We talked about that. He's really good at reading his keys. He understands where he needs to be. He can set the edge in the run game. So he's so versatile, and I don't think he ran in the preseason, in the pre-draft process. So I know
because he can't. But go ahead.
Right. So that's the concern. And maybe on the advice of his agent, he decided I'll just sit this one out. But you watch him play, he doesn't look like he's that slow to me.
Yeah, this kid is a really heady ball player on the back end, very instinctive. And the reason he's such a good player is he may lack speed, but he sees things and anticipates things and get a jump on things, and that's what makes him a good football player, more how well he plays above the neck than he does with his true speed.
When we've talked about a lot of the Cincinnati players, a lot of cases we've said when they played against Alabama, can you overrate a team or a guy in one game, or do you feel like I really have to see what they do against the single best team, the one shot they're going to have to play, really big-time competition? I mean, I played Notre Dame too, but that's not Alabama.
No, they played Indiana, but they played in a pretty weak conference. I mean, the game I went to was Temple, and the game was over like with 3 minutes to go in the second quarter. So it was hard to judge that, but when I go out to the game, I want to see, like in pregame, how they move athletic, what their body type look like, and there's a bunch of tape you're going to watch, but Cincinnati and Luke Fickell does a phenomenal job, and the athletes he's bringing into that program is why it is where it is
Cincinnati
today.
Was in the Final Four. He does a great job.
With Sauce Gardner on one side, he only had to play half the field anyway, so it wasn't really.
Kobe Bryant on the other
yeah,
side, too.
he's a good player too.
Yeah, apparently they have a pretty good secondary there.
Look at the Chiefs. The Honey Badger's not coming back. They added Reed, but they like smart, heady safeties on the back end.
I think Thornhill only has one more year.
One more year left on his deal too. So
Rick, let me ask you this. So we talked about the instinctive guy like Bryan Cook who doesn't have the foot speed. We talked earlier about Alontae Taylor who can run but played mostly outside. If you're the GM, would you rather have Bryan Cook who's instinctive, or a guy you get to move to a new position but you like the athleticism?
I think you go back and forth, and can I take this speed guy that has all these athletic traits, can I make him a better player? But that also depends. If you're taking a corner and putting him over to safety, can this guy think like a safety? Because if you're a corner, basically I have you, and I'm going to make sure you don't catch the ball. When you have to communicate on the back end, call the defenses, when you see offenses running motions and changing coverages, that slows a athletic safety down if he has to think before he reacts.
Which is why a guy like Micah Hyde can really play. He's not overly fast, but he's instinctive and smart and knows how to get to the football.
There
Good,
you go. So Bryan
player.
Cook, Cincinnati Bearcat, now on his way to Kansas City. But what do you think of Ritter being the number 2 quarterback off the board, and what do you think about him going to Atlanta?
Well, he was my number 2 quarterback, and I think this is a great situation for him, like Brady talked about. You go there behind Marcus Mariota and probably play 5 games, then you take over as a starting quarterback. But you don't have to rush him, and that's the good thing. He can sit and learn. He probably needs to do a little of that. But he's athletic. Much like Mariota, he can move. He's much more athletic than people give him credit for. He ran better than people give him credit for. He was my second quarterback. Great situation for him to be in Atlanta.